5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are live. And the polls, Dad, have just closed in the state of Wisconsin. Say what's up to the people, Dad.
The Wisconsin election is the big one. The Florida elections were interesting, but these were solidly Republican districts, won by Republicans by over 30 points. Republicans should never have had to worry about those districts. That would be like Democrats worrying about AOC's district in New York, right, Sam?
Yeah.
Or Jamie Raskin's district in our home state of Maryland. And, of course, Republicans won handily, no big surprise, but Democrats cut in more than 60% into the margins that Republicans had enjoyed in these districts. So while this does pad the Republican majority in the House, it sends a big warning signal to Republicans, even in, more moderately Republican districts, much less districts that Harris won or districts that were relatively evenly divided between Republicans and Democrats. But I want to give a warning that you should not overthink special elections, right, Sam?
I don't know.
Yeah, they're conducted in the off year. They're low turnout elections. Democrats did real well in the 2023 special elections and still got blasted in the 2024 presidential, Senate, and congressional elections. So while Democrats should be moderately happy about what happened in Florida, and Republicans should be moderately worried about what happened in Florida, you've got to take those results with a big grain of salt.
Philip H. just donated 5 memberships. Thank you, Philip H. You're the man.
That is just wonderful. Keep us going. So now, the big one is Wisconsin.
Right, but wait, let me just go over these results real quick.
Sure, about 15 points, right?
So this is U.S. House District 1, which was Matt Gaetz's old district. Jimmy Patronis, the Republican won 57% of the vote. Gay Valamont won 42.2% of the vote, and that's in House District 1, the Panhandle of Florida. And then in House District 6 in Florida, Randy Fine won 56.7% of the vote, and Josh Wheel, I'm not sure how to say that, won 42.7% of the vote.
Yeah, clear, hefty victories for Republicans, but as I said, well under half of what Republicans had won these districts before.
Right.
Can you imagine AOC winning by only 14 points?
But you're saying that this Wisconsin one is the one we should all be really watching, right?
Yeah, obviously, because it's a swing state. It's not, clearly Republican, clearly Democratic, and it's incredibly important, in many ways even more important than those House elections, because it will determine the ideological tilt of the very important Wisconsin Supreme Court, which will have critical decisions to make on matters like labor laws, and critically, the gerrymandering of legislative districts. Wisconsin Republicans have been notorious, going beyond what even most Republican and Democratic gerrymanders have done in other districts. Abortion rights will also be at stake. So it's a very important state, and this is for the control of the state Supreme Court, I believe, for at least a couple of years, if not longer.
Yeah. So we'll hang out here and see what happens with this race. There's still 0%, 0 votes, 0% reporting. But Dad, what about Cory Booker, man? This guy has been going for 24 hours or something like that, hasn't he?
Boy, I thought I was pretty good, having run marathons in my time when I was a young guy like Cory Booker, maybe a little younger. And, I'm still an athlete. I'm going with your mom to the Senior Olympics. But I couldn't even begin in my prime to stand and talk for 25-plus hours. I cannot believe the stamina and commitment that Cory Booker has shown. It's superhuman. And you've heard me talk about Cory Booker before, haven't you, Sam?
We both have. We've both been very pro Cory Booker.
Very positive. I think he is truly one of the great stars of the Democratic Party. And both of us have been very bullish on Cory Booker. And what he's doing is amazing by showing this kind of fortitude and stamina and showing this kind of willingness to go after the Trump administration. He has really demonstrated something absolutely extraordinary. You know, what have we been indicting the Democrats for, Sam?
Spinelessness.
Spineless. And, you know, just recently, I'm not going to get into it, I had a personal experience with an absolutely spineless Democrat. It was, you know, just incredibly upsetting. But Cory Booker, along with AOC and, you know, old Bernie Sanders, have really been going against the trend of the spineless Democrats. And, you know, hopefully what they are doing will be exemplars for the Democratic Party as a whole. You can't play not to lose, right, Sam? You've been in sports a lot, and playing not to lose is a sure remedy for what?
Losing.
And, you know, maybe finally, led by Booker and AOC and Sanders, the Democrats are finally growing a spine. I just did something for the New York Times. Can you hold this for a moment? I want to call up something on my phone. I was asked to write 10 unprecedented things that Donald Trump in, you know, less than 3 months has done in his administration. And can I share that with our audience?
Email it to me. I can pull it up right now.
All right, I will do.
Email it to me?
Of course.
In the meantime, while he emails that to me, I didn't know you did this, actually.
Yeah, I just did it today, and I just emailed it to you.
Oh,
Are
thanks.
we going to read it, or just...
Yeah, I'll pull it up right now.
Yeah, let me know, and I'll start reading it.
Let me know.
Samuel, you're like a technical genius.
I am.
And... You know where I stand on technology. I can't read that, but I have it on my phone.
Oh, you sent me like a printout text.
Yeah, it's too small.
But
that's all right. I have it.
Let me see if I can pull this up. 10.
And this is 10. I could have done 20.
Really?
Oh yeah, but I was asked to stick to 10. By the New York Times. I can't guarantee they're going to do anything with this. You know, sometimes they ask you for things and it doesn't, for various reasons, see the light of day. But I'm going to share it with our very loyal audience and our very smart audience. So I think we'll appreciate what I've had to say here. Let me know when you're ready and I'll start reading.
You've sent it to my personal email in a text. I don't really want to pull it up on my personal email.
I can send it to another email if you want.
No. Either... Any email is going to be an email, email. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull it up in Word real quick.
Okay.
www.word.com. Okay, Dad?
Whatever you say.
Really?
There you go.
Okay. Hold on. Everybody hold on.
There it is.
Hold on. They can't see it yet.
All right. Lichtman's top 10.
Hold on. They can't see it yet.
I'm just talking.
Oh.
And as I said, I could do 20.
Right.
But the New York Times asked me to limit it to 10.
Right.
Let me know when I should start reading.
Okay, go for it.
This is the top 10, not necessarily in order, but close. By executive order, this is things Trump has done that are unprecedented. 1, by executive order contradicting the birthright provision of the 14th Amendment, sustained by U.S. Supreme Court precedent to deny U.S. citizenship to American-born children of undocumented immigrants. 2, empowering Elon Musk. Elon, yes. A private individual with conflicts of interest to knowingly fire thousands of federal employees without cause. Musk was not appointed by the president, vetted, or approved by the Senate as a federal officer under the Constitution. 3, calling for the impeachment of federal judges who issued rulings he did not like, provoking a rare rebuke from the conservative U.S. Chief Justice. 4, undermining the NATO alliance that has protected American democracy since the 1950s, including a gratuitous tariff war against America's allies. 5, declaring himself a king who is not bound by the laws of the land, including the 22nd Amendment, prohibiting a president from being elected to a third term in office. 6, engaging in a war on science by erasing climate change, canceling federal grants for vital scientific research, and appointing unqualified persons and purveyors of quack science to key federal health organizations. 7, using executive orders to dismantle federal agencies and departments, including the Department of Education, the Consumer Financial Protection Board, the Voice of America, and USAID. 8, engaging in the deportation of alleged undocumented immigrants without due process, most of whom have no criminal record or have committed only minor offenses like violating traffic rules. 9, using the power of the presidency to compel private law firms, the Smithsonian Institution, and colleges and universities to conform to Trump's political agenda. 10, purging government officials and replacing them with Trump loyalists, regardless of qualifications, to place departments and agencies under his control, including the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the military. The 10 dirty deeds.
Wow, that was really good.
Thank you. Let's hope the Times publishes it.
Yeah, I had no idea you did this today?
Did this today.
Wow.
In fact, I did this just about 5 hours ago.
Well, I think this is a very good, concrete list.
Yeah, and I'm happy to take questions about it and hear comments. A couple of other things I do want to talk about.
1 second. Bonnie Miller donated $50.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie Miller.
These donations and memberships keep us going.
Okay, a couple other things you want to talk about.
Yeah. You remember what the Republicans said about Hillary Clinton's use of emails for government business, right?
No, I blocked it all out.
Lock her up. Pete Hegseth. You know who he is, right?
Heard of him.
Secretary of Defense.
Right.
What did he used to be? Do you remember?
Fox News host.
And on Fox News, he was screaming about locking her up, saying if anyone else had done 1,000th of what she did, they'd be in jail. Guess what we just found out? Mike Waltz, the national security advisor responsible for a national security leak vastly exceeding anything Hillary Clinton done. Guess what else he and other officials under his command had done?
I don't know.
Using emails for government business.
Shocking.
And this is vastly more egregious than Clinton, since they knew about the Clinton scandal, right? They knew that they were proclaiming that she should go to jail, and yet here they are doing exactly the same thing. And using the same excuse Clinton did. We didn't send any classified information, and it's not at all clear whether that is actually true or not.
Wait 1 second. Zero just gifted 10 memberships. Thank you.
This is awesome. We depend on these memberships and the donations to keep us going. Final thing I want to say before we get into the election results, and there's just not enough. What is it? 1%?
Oh, there's only 1% in.
It means nothing. It's probably from rural areas. Does show the Republican ahead, but I'm sure Milwaukee and Ann Arbor and places like that have not come in. Not Ann Arbor.
No, Ann Arbor is not in
That's
Wisconsin.
Michigan. Yeah, I understand.
Madison, I think you meant to say.
Yeah. Some of you were a little bit upset about our show with Greg Palast last week. Very few out of our many thousands who viewed us. We got almost 2,000 likes. But a few of you said you thought maybe I was too hard on Greg Palast. I didn't let him explain himself enough. We gave him 10 minutes uninterrupted to make his case. And, maybe I was a little too tough. But I only, started to interrupt him when he went off on a tangent and tried to get him back on track to answer the questions. Greg and I agree, as I said last week, firmly on one thing: the importance of vote and reality of voter suppression. As Greg conceded, I am the country's leading expert in analyzing and challenging voter suppression. But the problem is, I did not want to see our analysis and reality of voter suppression getting caught up in a claim that it was voter suppression that accounted for a switch from a 7 million Democratic win in 2020 to a 2 to 3 million Democratic loss in 2024, from Democrats winning almost all the swing states in 2020 and then Republicans winning all the swing states in 2024. You know, Greg was making a very, very inflammatory and significant claim. And I had a great interest in that being true, because that would prove my prediction was right. But I had to challenge him, because that claim is only as good as the numbers. And you can see my questions were not pejorative. I didn't call his integrity into question. I didn't attack him personally. I dealt with his numbers. And sadly, you know, I found he was unable to really persuasively defend his numbers. And in doing that, keep in mind, I was going against self-interest. You know, I would love to, you know, have been right, and 2024 was a stolen election, but I just haven't seen the evidence of that. You know, for example, in New York, he had this map claiming New York adopted restrictive legislation, and yet the legislation in New York actually made it easier, not harder, to vote. And there was still a 10 percentage point swing from 2020 to 2024. A 9-point swing in California that had adopted no new legislation. That was a 2 million vote swing. I wasn't saying Trump got 2 million more votes, but I am saying the margin between Biden and Trump as compared to Harris and Trump, the margin was 2 million votes less. So sad to say, I love Greg. You know, I have no antagonism for him. I think he's done some great work, but I don't want to let the very good work proving voter suppression get caught up with claims that Harris really won the election, except that it was stolen by voter suppression. I just haven't seen that evidence, you know, even though I wish it were true.
I want to give a shout out to Philip H., who donated 5 more memberships. So
Wow.
Thank you, Philip H. We really appreciate that. I also see people donating. We'll get to your donations soon. We are the election. I mean, the results in Wisconsin are coming in pretty quick. We're at 4% reporting.
And Republicans up by 10.
Is that bad?
Who knows? It all depends on where they're from. I can't believe they're from Madison or Milwaukee.
Madison's only 3% in. Milwaukee's not even in yet.
So are some of the red counties in more?
Not
22%.
22% in Waukesha County. I don't know if that's super
Republican.
red. Only 5% in Vernon.
10%.
1%. It's still
remember,
so
these
early.
Percentages are deceptive because those red counties have vastly fewer votes than the blue counties. Particularly, obviously, Milwaukee has a huge percentage of the state vote. And I think you said it was 0 in?
Nothing in from Milwaukee. You can't see this?
No, because the computer is blocking it.
Let's see if I can move that.
Now I can see it.
Now you can see it? You can see
now you see it? Now you don't?
Yeah.
Now I do.
So Milwaukee County,
Can
0%.
you check Madison?
Madison is 3%.
Eau Claire.
Madison is 3% in. Eau Claire County is not in yet.
Yeah. So
Kenosha is 6% in.
Yeah. So I don't know what county Madison is in.
It's in
Dane. That's right. It's only 3% in. But, you know, these are not real positive results for the Democrats so far. I'm not sure they matter.
It's 4% reporting.
And it's only 11,000 votes. Milwaukee alone would wipe that out easily. Easily.
Yeah, I'm not.
So it's just too early. We really can't say much more about what's going on in Wisconsin. So should we turn to questions?
Yeah, why not?
And you can ask me, as we said, not just what we're talking about tonight, but about anything. But we welcome your questions about...
No, not about anything.
That's right. No opera.
No opera.
No opera. But
No opera.
Anything short of opera, we're good. Maybe you can answer the opera questions.
What do I know about opera?
Nothing.
Right.
Have you ever even seen an opera?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I have. Shout out to Elliot Antokis, although he told me he never watches.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to turn to questions, and then we can comment again when, you know, we're close to 50%.
Wait, Susan,
it's already, the Democrat has jumped ahead. It's over.
What?
It's over.
No, come on.
If she is ahead at this point.
No, that's
Let me
crazy.
finish. With 0 in from Milwaukee, no way she's going to lose.
So you heard it here first, folks. Allan Lichtman called it with 6% of the vote in.
Look, who was the first one to call Trump's win?
Right, but...
Not with 6%. But if it's
6%.
still true that it's 0 from Milwaukee.
Milwaukee County, 0% of the vote in.
Yeah. Why does it look red?
That's the county outside of Milwaukee.
Oh, that's Waukesha. Yeah, which is 22% in.
Right.
It's over.
Really?
You heard it here first. And if you want to take issue with me in the questions, please do.
Okay.
But if the Democrat is ahead with 0 from Milwaukee, there's just no way mathematically, I believe, that she can be overcome.
Okay. Wow, that's a quick call, Dad, I have to say.
It's the quickest call you'll ever hear. And if I'm wrong, you know, you can blast me all you want. I'm way out on a limb, but I've been out on a limb for, over 40 years. Since 1982, I've been out on a limb.
Since you were 9 years old.
You were 9 years old in
since you were 9 years old.
Oh, I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
I hadn't even met your mom yet in 1982. It'll be another 8 years.
This first question is from Lincoln with a $20 donation. Thank you so much for your donation. They said, I would like to see you do a show with Nathan at Election Truth Alliance and hear your feedback. He alleges issues at the tabulator level.
Yeah, I can't deal with that. I'm not a technician. I'll consider having that person on, but I'm a numbers guy. Maybe Sam could deal with the technology. But I can't, really make believe that I'm an expert in that. But I'll consider it. I don't know anything about the Election Truth Alliance, but I'll look into it because I always take seriously anything from our donors.
If Crawford wins the special election, do you think Trump will call it rigged?
Of course. He calls
does.
every election that he or his allies loses rigged, but absolutely. No question. When was the last time Trump took responsibility for something?
Never.
And he's 78 years old?
Right. Professor, what is your current assessment of the status of ceasefire negotiations between POTUS and POTR?
What's POTR?
I don't know. POTR? President of... I don't know what POTR is.
I don't know. I know they're negotiating. It must be
President
Netanyahu.
of the Russian Federation?
Well, it's either Russia or...
It's Russia.
Or the Middle East.
It must be Russia. I guess he's talking about peace. What are your thoughts on the peace?
I think they're far from peace because Russia wants a huge piece of Ukraine, and Ukraine's not willing to give it to them. And Trump doesn't care. He wants the Nobel Peace Prize. He wants to win the foreign policy success key, and couldn't care less, could he, Sam, about what happens to Ukraine?
I don't think he cares, no.
I'd say his care level if you look at it from 0 to 100, is a 1.
Thank you, B, for your donation. We truly appreciate it. Let's see if anything's changed. She's up 53 to 46% with 11% reporting.
Who called it?
Artem
With 4% in.
No, you called it. No, you called it with 6.
Was it 6?
I think it was 6.
All right, whatever.
Don't get ahead of yourself, brother.
I don't care if it was 4. I don't care if it was 6. I am how far ahead of everybody else?
Pretty far.
Yeah.
I was pretty shocked you called.
I know numbers, and I know without Milwaukee in.
But Dane County which is Madison, is the highest reporting county right now. Could that be shifting the scales a little bit?
Let's look at it.
It's 19% of the vote.
That's definitely shifted the scales. But again, it's only 19%, 12% in. And remember, these percentages are deceptive because Dane and especially Milwaukee have so many more votes in terms of numbers. And in the end, it's the numbers that count.
Okay, so you're not backtracking.
I'm not backing off. And what is it from Milwaukee? Still 0? That's the one that really matters.
Nothing from Milwaukee yet.
Yeah.
Fond du Lac County has 42%.
That's a big Schimmel County.
That has 42% in.
Yeah, 66%. But again, look at the numbers.
Yeah, it's low numbers.
He's only ahead by 4,200 votes.
And she's ahead in Dane County by like what?
32,000. And she'll be ahead in Milwaukee by, I would guess, over 100,000.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cray.
She's already up 13,000. I don't see where he makes that up.
Right. Professor Lichtman, are you aware of the role that Opus Dei and the technocrats are playing in Trump's administration?
Very much so. I talked a lot about Opus Dei, which is this incredibly conservative, right-wing, conspiratorial Catholic organization. And like other extreme right-wing organizations, including the white nationalists, they do indeed have influence in the Trump administration. I haven't studied it myself, but there has been reporting on that. And if you want to learn a lot about Opus Dei, although, long before the advent of Trump, read my book, White Protestant Nation, The Rise of the American Conservative Movement, Grove Atlantic Press, 2008. Can we promo my course?
Go ahead right now.
But you got to show the link to it.
Savannah will post the link.
All right, when she posts the link, I'll talk about it.
No, you talk about it and she'll post the link.
So I am giving a course, a 4-lecture course, and so it'll be 4 one-hour sessions, both my speaking and like this, questions.
She slipped a little bit.
A little bit. It's on pivotal American elections. And I'm going to look at elections from 1800 to 2024, something I've been studying for over 50 years. I'm doing it with the very prestigious 92nd Street Y in New York City. It's online. You can easily register for it. And I promise you, it will be interesting and informative. And the more folks we can get, the more likely this kind of thing can continue.
Savannah just posted it in the chat and pinned it. Before we continue, Dad, we almost have 3,000 people watching right now.
That's awesome.
But we've only got 768 likes. So if you're watching, please like the stream. It helps us a lot. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and click that notification bell so you know we're live. We take questions on this show, but from donations and members.
Which, is important to us. We need that. We can't do this for nothing. We have employees, we have expenses, and at the moment I'm not taking anything from it, not a penny. Sam,
she just went up. She just went up. Yep.
And it's. Are you doubting that I was right at 6%?
I just said that was an early call. I didn't say you were wrong. I just said it was an early call. That's all I said.
Yep. And this is the ball game, not what was going on. It would have been astonishing if a Democrat had won, either one of those districts, and it wouldn't have fundamentally changed the balance of power in Congress. This is the one that matters.
Right. If you are just turning in the Florida elections,
they're
have
over.
Both gone red.
14 points, 15, 14.8.
Yeah.
Less than half of what Republicans have been doing in those two districts.
Right.
But again, I caution you, do not read too much into special off-year elections. Democrats should be happy. Every off-year election so far, Democrats have way overperformed. But I caution you, they also overperformed in 2023, and that did not translate into the general election of 2024.
Right. We're at 1,100 likes. Let's see. Can we push this to 2,000 likes tonight, Dad?
That would be awesome.
Live? That would be awesome.
Yeah. And all it does, right, is just a little click to like.
Just a little click.
Like us.
Yep.
You don't have to be a computer genius like you.
I don't know if you could figure it out, but...
Well, I think even an old dinosaur like me could figure it out.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think, when I call up our stuff, there's a big button that says like.
Oh, okay.
I think even I could figure out to put my cursor on that and press it.
Okay.
And if I can figure it out, anyone can. Certainly our brilliant audience members can figure it out.
This is from one of our members, Jay Mlelwa. They say, Professor, what are the 3 possible ways Trump can use to remain in power for 2028?
Yeah. I don't think there's any legal way. But, without precedent, he has become the first president to say, I want to get around the 22nd Amendment and serve forever. Declare martial law, right, Sam?
Yikes.
Seize the voting machines, say, there's a national emergency, we can't have an election right now.
These are all hypothetical.
These are all hypotheticals. I think they're all illegal. I don't believe they would work. Secondly, run as vice president, right? And then have the president resign and Trump accede to the presidency by virtue of being next in line. Third, become Speaker of the House. You don't have to be a member of the House to become Speaker. Have the president and the vice president resign, and the Speaker is next in line. And I'm sure there are other illegal ways as well, but those are just a couple that immediately come to mind. And by the way, she's expanding, right?
Well, by 0.2.
Yeah, but it's the numbers that matter, not the percentages.
Okay.
She's ahead by 33,000 votes. That's not easy to make up.
No. Another number's in.
Now she's ahead by 37,000
No, she just went down a percentage.
Yeah, but it's not the percentage. It's the numbers.
Okay.
What's happening in Milwaukee?
I don't see anything.
Still 0.
0.
I'm telling you, my 6% call is going to hold.
If you say so,
if it doesn't,
yeah.
Unlike Trump,
careful.
I'm ready to be held accountable.
Okay, that was general.
I was very much held accountable when I missed 2024 for the first time in 42 years. What did I say even on election night, Sam?
You could be wrong.
I was wrong.
Uh-oh, she's slipping.
A little bit, like 0.2 of a point. And it all depends on where it's coming from. It's not the percentages that matter. And yet, my critics still blasted me as though I had not admitted that I was wrong. Particularly that charlatan, what's his name?
Cenk
Uygur, who went after me personally with middle school insults, as if he had just revealed a couple of weeks after the election that I was wrong.
Blasphemy against you.
Yeah, right.
This is a question from Mike Langshaw with a $5 donation. They say,
nice.
Professor, do you see the midterms of 2006 mirroring the midterms of the 2026 election?
I think that's quite possible, provided there's a big proviso here, Sam.
Proviso?
There we go.
She just went up 4 percentage points. Oh, you know why? Milwaukee just came in. 61% of the vote reporting already.
Wow.
That's why she went up 4 percentage points.
Yeah, she's up over 100,000 votes. And 17 points? And you can see it's 61%, but it's 106, almost 160,000 votes.
Yeah.
And so there's still, even at 39% left, still a lot of votes to come in from Milwaukee.
She went down a little bit, but nothing major.
Yeah, she's not going to win by 17 points.
No, of course not.
But I think she.
I
still think she's
all
gonna
of this
win.
area is all red. All of these.
All those small rural counties.
Yeah.
What's Dane? How much is in?
Only 32%.
Yeah, and you can see that's 100,000 votes.
Yeah.
And she's at 77%. So if there's another 100,000 votes to come in from Dane, and she keeps it at 77%, that's going to be a net of 50,000 votes. Take a lot of rural counties to make that up, and she's already up by over 100,000.
No, I think at this point I'm willing to say she's going to win, but
I said it
at 6%.
half an hour ago.
Right.
All right, let's take some more questions.
This is from a $20 donation from Diego.
Nice.
They say, what do you think about parliamentary democracy? An article written by Juan Lins, The Perils of Presidentialism, How Presidentialism Doesn't Work in Latin America. I feel like the U.S. has become a Latin American banana republic.
Yeah, I hate the term banana republic.
Why?
Because I think it's demeaning of Latin America.
Oh, I see.
I just don't like it. But I understand what's being said. And, I am a big fan of parliamentary government, but I also understand it has a very big drawback. And what's that, Sam?
I don't know.
When you have all these parties, competing, stalemate, divided government, lack of decision making.
Oh, but we don't have that in America?
Well, we only have two parties, so we don't have the kind of splintering you see in parliamentary government. So there are pros and cons, but it's a purely hypothetical. You'd have to fundamentally amend the U.S. Constitution. And what are the chances of that?
Slim to none.
Yes.
We've got 3,500 people watching.
Are we at 2,000 likes?
No, we need 500 more likes to get to 2,000 likes, people.
And how much time do we have left for that?
Like how much time in the show? Yeah, a little more than 20 minutes.
Please. We're working hard here.
Please,
like us.
Please. Like?
Donate.
Why don't you like me?
Well, you're very likable, but, I'm a cantankerous old man.
I think you're more likable than I am. She just went up another percentage and a half.
Yeah, it's over.
It's over, folks.
She's 147,000 votes ahead.
Wow.
There's no way those rural counties can make that up. Plus, there's still a lot more votes to come in from Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's still only 61%.
So there's,
But Dane went up to 49% from 31%.
Yeah, and it's 150,000.
Yeah.
So there are 150,000 more votes to come in from Dane, and she's at 77%.
Wow. Hey, I'm happy.
Yeah. I'm not going to crow.
Crow.
Go
ahead.
I can crow.
Crow all you want, man.
All right. At what point did I call it, Sam?
6. Okay, that's enough.
All right, enough crowing.
Cindy Cooper says, one of our great members says, I'm concerned for the people of Greenland. I feel like running for a third term is a decoy, and we can worry about that in time. But Greenland is a huge concern because he said 100% he's taking Greenland. Greenland is a launch pad for Russia. While European nations are trying to help Ukraine cope with their situation, how will they have enough guns, so to speak, to deal with a takeover in Greenland?
They couldn't. But let's hope, and you never know with Trump, that he's not crazy enough to launch a military operation against Greenland. That would cause a crisis of his presidency even greater than what we're getting. The latest poll, by the way, Sam, had him underwater in virtually every issue and way underwater on the economy, way underwater on Musk, way underwater on his appointments, and his approval rating down to 40%. And that was, I think, right before even it had really sunk in the national security leak scandal.
Right. Our next question is from In Your Face New Yorker, one of our very loyal members.
This is awesome.
They say, if Donald Trump had a fatal heart attack or some other health event and J.D. Vance became president, do you think he would be easier to contain since he's not trying to be king and doesn't have a cult following?
I think he will try to be king. I don't see any daylight really between Vance and Trump, but he doesn't have a cult following. There is only one Donald Trump who fires up, inspires the MAGA base. Vance may try to be another Trump, certainly shares Trump's outlook on things, but he's not Donald Trump and never will be.
Someone just donated and said, tuning in for the first time since the November election, still in shock, but ready to get back into educating myself. Welcome
We are
back.
trying. We are trying to, give it to you straight. So she's now up by 135,000 votes.
Pretty
with
crazy.
36% in, 58.2 to 41.8. And how are we doing on Milwaukee?
Let me check.
I'm willing to bet it's not changed much.
Still 61.
Hasn't changed at all. And Dane County?
57. It has changed a bit.
A bit.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of votes to come in. That's 160,000 votes with just over half. Where is she going to make up 135,000 votes?
You mean he?
He.
Yes.
Done. Cooked.
Nice.
Nice.
Say it. So go like this. Cooked.
Cooked.
This is one of our Discord questions. If you're not part of our...
I never understood what Discord was, but don't even try to explain it to me.
But if you want to join, the link to that is in the link tree in the description of this video. This is from Christopher, who's actually one of our Discord mods. They say, if RFK Jr.'s nomination was a quid pro quo, would that turn the scandal key? That's an interesting point.
I hadn't thought about that, and the problem is, I think it would, because quid pro quos are illegal. You cannot give someone something of value in return for donations or support, but I don't see how you could prove it. So, no, I don't anticipate that will turn the scandal. And I'm not even sure it's true.
Well, yeah, you'd have to prove it first.
You have to prove it. But even my gut tells me it probably wasn't an explicit quid pro quo. Maybe an implicit one, but nothing you can do about that.
What do you think about, this is from Artem, what do you think about Bashir Crockett 2028?
The what?
Like Andy Bashir and Jazz.
I love it. I love them both.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Representative Crockett, and you know how often I've touted Andy Bashir on this show. Yeah, I think that would be an incredibly powerful ticket, or maybe Bashir AOC.
Thank you, Robert Ratz, for your donation. God dang it. I keep messing up.
So it's now 58-42, 100 and... Oh, it's just changed again. 57.5, 42.5, 125,000. So she's lost maybe 10,000.
Is that bad?
It's irrelevant.
Really?
You can see some of the red counties coming in.
Yeah.
Remember that was all white before?
Yeah.
And now you got a lot of... Check some of them out.
1%, 4%.
But you can see how small those votes are.
Yeah.
4%, and it's not even 300 votes.
Right.
So, look at some of the darker reds.
3%, 6%.
Yeah, there's still a lot of votes to come in from there, but that's why she's gone down a little bit.
Yeah, well, she was surging.
Yeah, but she's still up 15 points.
Yeah. I got good news, Dad. We hit 2,000 likes, and we've got 4,100 people watching.
That is awesome.
Thank you all for watching.
And we're trying to give you as much straight information as we can. You know our leanings, but, have we been critical of Democrats?
Yes.
Yes, many, many times.
A lot of times, right, Dad?
Yes.
All right, you ready for another question?
I am always ready.
Just how many laws or norms does it take to destroy the fabric of society in America? The U.S. was known for education, namely universities, innovation, science, tech, intellectuals, the rule of law, and human rights. I feel it's being torn apart.
I'm very worried. I don't think it's yet torn apart, but Trump is certainly doing everything he can to achieve that. Remember, among my 10 unprecedented things that Trump did was essentially erasing science from our society, compelling law firms, the Smithsonian, other museums, colleges, and universities to conform to his own utterly distorted, fabricated views of the American experience, much less contradicting the Constitution in many ways. This all is very, very serious. And as you heard me say, we need to be eternally vigilant. Support organizations that are challenging Trump. If you're a lawyer, get involved. Organize voters. Vote. Pressure your representatives and senators. We need to act. It's not clear that the guardrails are going to hold.
Kathy Brown with a $20 donation. Thank you so much. Another Discord question from Nano Rider. They say, I'm very worried about the pressure on law firms. People will not get a chance of defending themselves if Trump and his cronies sue them. Can I get your take on this, Professor Lichtman?
It's one of my 10, dirty deeds that are unprecedented of the Trump administration. It's incredibly troublesome because he's targeting law firms that have stood up to him, that have stood up for voting rights, that have stood up for human rights, that have stood up for our Constitution, that have stood up for civil rights. And if they are no longer able to act independently, and in fact must be forced even to defend Donald Trump's unconstitutional, unlawful actions, we are all in very serious trouble. Fortunately, not every law firm has caved. Some of them are, in fact, suing Donald Trump and what he's attempting. But think about it. Think if he gets control over our law firms, our keepers of our heritage like the Smithsonian, our colleges, our universities, the scientific and health agencies of government. It will be the greatest disaster since the Civil War in American history.
40% of the vote in. Susan Crawford's at 545,000 votes at 57.4%.
So almost 142,000
I see
votes.
people in the chat saying that Election HQ already called it for Crawford.
Right. Long after we did, right? We beat them all.
ND just gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you.
This is
6%, I called it.
Yeah, I remember.
You remember, and you were skeptical.
I was a little bit.
Yeah.
Decision Desk HQ called it.
Yes. It's now obvious. You can't make up, 15% with 60% yet to come, and a lot of votes yet to come from Milwaukee and Dade.
Now, is it Milwaukee or is it Milwaukee?
Milwaukee.
Right.
Yeah.
This is from Green Entertainment. They say, just like to say, I just went to my first protest against the Musk regime. It was just me, so got any tips on asking other people to join the fight?
First of all, I congratulate you for the courage, even if you're alone, to stand up. Start with your friends and associates. And then, it's like the telephone circles, right, Sam? You call one person and then they call someone else and so on and so on. That's the way you get a critical mass of protesters.
When you were talking about telephone circles, I thought you were talking about those old spin dials on the phone.
I still have one. No, I don't.
No,
Believe it or not, the only phone I have is my good old cell phone.
Right.
I'm still learning how to use it, but, I'm not too bad.
This is from Bob Rafiq. Absolutely love you both so much. Trump is still an adjudicated insurrectionist. The disability has not been removed by Congress. Why do the Dems not make more of it?
They tried, The problem is, of course, these were only indictments. And, he was presumed innocent until proven guilty. And the Supreme Court and Judge Cannon in Florida killed the indictments. You've heard me say many times, what was my prediction if he had gone to trial?
Guilty.
And that was a very confident prediction. As confident as my calling it for Crawford with 6% in.
Some people are asking for the Florida results. We'll do it for the third time.
Yeah,
Florida results have been done for a long time.
14%, and I think the other one's about the same.
Yeah, House
6.
House District 6.
That's
Republican
Waltz's own
one.
district, and one is Gates's own district, also 14 point something.
Yeah.
They're not going to change much.
No. But back to Wisconsin. Although you called it already.
I called, and you said HQ Decision Desk has called it?
Yes.
Yeah. Now it's easy to call it with 42% in.
Yeah. Sean Breen says, I have always lived in Dane County. Are counties like that really that strange in regards to the Midwest?
No, there's lots of lots of Democratic strongholds in the Midwest. I had mistakenly mentioned Ann Arbor. Of course, that's in Michigan, right? And Detroit, Chicago. Lots of Democratic strongholds.
I think they were saying, is it strange?
University areas are not strange.
Is it strange in regards to the vote percentage? I don't know what
it's a little bit. It's way above expectations. I think that's right.
Right.
I mean, 77% that's what you'd expect in Atlanta.
Right. Member RYN988 says, Professor, I'm surprised how fragile the whole system turned out to be. Much of the rules are based on good faith. Like if Trump ignores the courts, it's practically over. Why didn't the framers design a more robust checks and balance system?
James Madison, the architect of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, addressed this. He said, look, we have done the best we can, far better than any other nation at the time, not even close, to really balance power, to try to avoid another tyranny being opposed on America. But he added, in the end, we are still dependent upon virtue. If virtue is destroyed, then no system, however robust, is going to hold. Moreover, I wrote a whole book on this called 13 Cracks, Repairing American Democracy After Trump, in which I pointed out some of the biggest loopholes in our checks and balances, and in every case pointed out remedies for that. 13 Cracks, Repairing American Democracy After Trump, Roman and Littlefield.
This is from member Nan B. They say, does Trump have enough help with Congress to change the Constitution in order to keep him on the throne?
He can't change the Constitution. It requires either a constitutional convention or 2/3 votes of both houses of Congress and ratification by 3/4 of the states. But as I pointed out earlier, in response to one of our questions,
She went up.
She went up.
She went up a percentage.
Yeah, this is all irrelevant. We're now at half, close to half. And as I pointed out earlier in response to another question, Trump can try to use unconstitutional means to stay in power. He can't stay in power legally and constitutionally.
I mean, it's not totally irrelevant. It'll be interesting to see in the end how much she wins by. No?
How much what?
How much she wins by in the end. You said this is all irrelevant.
How much she wins by.
That's what I said.
Oh, I thought you said how much he wins by.
No, she.
Yeah, I think she's going to win pretty robustly. But, the most important thing is the composition of the Supreme Court.
Right. This is from member Tashdid Khan. They say, you've described the Trump administration's actions, including cuts by DOJ, including cuts by the Department of Energy, as largely performative. In my view, these actions also highlight a broader pattern of cruelty and disdain.
Oh, I have said that. How many times have I said that, Sam?
Yeah, you've said that.
Innumerable. I wasn't asked to get into that by the Times just to point out the actions themselves. I have said many times how cruel and inhumane they are, these billionaires ruining people's lives. You told your story, Sam, and your life got impacted by this and was far from the worst.
Right. This is from Michael Sheffield. They say, just saw a legal migrant was sent to the El Salvador prison. What do we do when law enforcement acts illegally? Shake my damn head.
Yeah, it's as James Madison said, there's not a whole lot you can do when people become evil. We have the courts, but the courts act slowly. The courts don't have means of enforcement. And Donald Trump has made it clear that he is not necessarily going to follow court decisions, or he'll just say pro forma, I'll follow them, and not really follow them. But all we can do is continue to work as hard as we can within the legal system, which is why, make your first donations to us, but if you got ability to make other donations, support organizations working on the legal challenges to Trump.
I've been working on a lot of footage from these this specific El Salvadorian prison. And I mean, granted, I'm sure a lot of the people in there are really bad people. They're murderers. They're sick. But those prisons are horrific. And I just can't imagine being an innocent person being sent to one of those prisons. I mean,
it's probably preferable to die, to be honest with you, than to spend your life there. You'll die anyway in that prison.
Those prisons, they're scary.
Yeah, I've compared them to the German concentration camps. Not the death camps. It was a long time before they set up the death camps, but they had concentration camps where they imprisoned people. And this prison may be worse than those concentration camps.
But there are actual criminals in this prison, too.
Of course. And there were some actual criminals in the German concentration camps, along with, the Jews, the communists, the gypsies, people that they reviled.
I feel like it's whenever you say concentration camps.
I know. It's not the death camps. And, I don't like to make Hitler comparisons, but this prison is so horrific that there really isn't any other comparison to be made.
All right. Charlie Felton wants to know if you have any thoughts on the Burma earthquake or Myanmar earthquake.
My heart goes out to the people, to the victims, to the families of the victims, to those injured, to those who've lost their homes and businesses. Donald Trump says, we're going to help them, but they've dismantled the agencies responsible for helping them. So once again, you get a lot of hot air from Donald Trump, but no real humanitarian action. What have they done to USAID?
Destroyed it.
Yeah, you remember the term that Elon Musk used? We're going to put it in the wood chipper. So how in the world are you going to help anyone around the world when you're destroying the agency responsible for doing that?
Right.
And by the way, you withdraw American aid, and who's going to step in?
China and Russia.
China and Russia. You're just opening the door to American adversaries for no good reason. These programs have worked. Some of the most important ones were established under Republican administrations. They've saved tens of millions of lives and brought us critical goodwill around the world that cannot be earned in any other way. Trump said, the world respects us now. And no, the world hates us now under Trump. And every, analysis shows that.
All right, we've hit 10 o'clock or 9:59. How many more questions you want, Dad?
3 more.
3 more questions.
And have any other outfits called the race?
Yeah, someone just said MSNBC called it.
Everyone called it, yeah. Well, long after we did.
New York Times hasn't called it yet.
No.
Right? They would put a
surprised.
check next to her if they called it. She just went up 0.6%.
Yeah, she's going to win big, it looks like. I don't care how big she wins. So I just care that she wins.
This is from Nandrishiram. They say, in a previous live stream, I asked if you considered Biden to be similar to James Buchanan in the sense of not doing enough to stop the opposition from becoming rebellious, or for the case of Biden, not stopping the rise of Trump.
Look, yes, I do think there were problems, as we have said innumerable times, with the messaging and the politicking of the Democrats. But there is no comparison between Biden and James Buchanan, who in every way was a horrible president who did nothing for the good of the country. As we have pointed out many, many times, since the 1960s, Sam, what president has achieved the greatest number of significant domestic accomplishments?
Joseph.
Exactly. But yet nobody knows that because of their lack of messaging. And in foreign policy, it was Biden and Biden alone who put together the coalition of the West that stopped Putin from almost instantly conquering Ukraine and has kept Ukraine alive for almost 3 years. Now Trump is going to take credit, for anything that positively happens in Ukraine. And he didn't lift a finger, not a finger, to help Ukraine when they were in peril.
This is from Arash Taheri. They say, Dr. Lichtman, my preferred choice for the Democratic nomination is Mark Kelly because he personifies the heroic status as a Navy captain and astronaut and respected the seat once held by Senator McCain. What do you think?
I like Mark Kelly. I'm not willing this far out to say, who I favor as Democratic candidate, but I like Mark Kelly. I like Andy Beshear. I like Cory Booker.
All right, final question of the night. Allan, what's your favorite opera?
Aida.
Oh.
Not bad, huh?
I've never even heard of that.
I think I can come up with one.
All right, folks. With that, we will begin to wrap up Lichtman Live. But guess what the good news is?
Sammy Licht afterwards.
The Lichtman Live post show on my channel, @SamLichtman, is coming up right after this.
So did we get it? We got our 2,000 likes?
We got our 2,000 likes. Let's see. We got 2,500 likes. 2,555 likes, Dad.
And we got about 27,000 viewers.
Yeah, pretty good.
Please keep tuning in.
Yes.
This
or else.
really helps us to have this kind of viewership.
Keep tuning in or else, right, Dad? No.
Well, I don't know what else we can do.
No, I'm joking. I will put the link to the Lichtman Live post show in the chat, and I will pin it to the chat. What are you looking at?
What is the chat rate?
The chat rate is how often people are posting in the chat.
Got it.
All right. So, Dad, you called Susan Crawford win at 6%. Other stations and outlets are starting to call it, but you were first.
Yes, and we were.
No one can take that from you, Dad.
No, and you may say, "Oh, you're biased," but what else were we first in calling?
Trump winning.
Trump winning.
Yeah.
So our calls are based on my mathematical and political analysis, and obviously have nothing to do with my own political or ideological leanings.
She's still way ahead.
Way ahead. She's going to win really big. Let's just check Milwaukee.
Okay, one last
time.
One last check for Milwaukee. 54% in Milwaukee.
And that's 200,000. So there are almost 200,000 more votes to come in from Milwaukee. And look, the red counties are coming in. She's going to win huge.
Dane has 68%, though.
Yeah, but that's 200,000 votes. So
21%.
Another 100,000 plus to come in.
42%
yeah,
in
so the
Chippewa.
red counties are starting to catch up.
54 in Barron County.
Yeah, look, but those that have 2-3%, they're like in the triple digits, with a very low 4 digits.
All right, well,
all right.
If you're a Democrat, if you're a left-leaning person, this is a good night for you in terms of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Let's see,
if you believe in democracy, it's a good night.
Although
the Supreme
they
Court.
are voting to have
always do
voter ID requirements.
Is it 60% requirement? Do you know? I don't know.
I don't know.
But they're right on the margin if it is.
That's not great news.
No, that's not.
But this is better news.
Yeah, this is the big news.
Yeah.
And the problem with voter ID requirements is this. the vast majority of people have them. It's only a small percentage of marginalized people, maybe under 10%. And so for most people, sure, no problem with voter ID requirements. That's the problem with putting it to a vote.
Right. But the good news, if you're a Democrat, if you're a left-leaning person, or if you care about democracy, in my mind, Susan Crawford looks like she is headed for a win.
A big win.
Projected on Lichtman Live was 6% of the vote by Allan Lichtman. I think I projected at like 20%.
Yeah.
So I beat MSNBC.
You beat everyone else. But
What are your final words?
My final words are: look, we got almost 27,000 views. Maybe we have 27,000 by now. This is a huge boost for us. This helps keep us on the air. If you've tuned in tonight, please tune in again. We're working really hard to give you the deepest historical perspective, the best straight from the shoulder, analysis. Yes, we have our own leanings, but we tell it to you straight.
This is my leaning.
We don't always just go with our leanings, as you saw with my earliest prediction of a Trump win, and my challenging Greg Palast against interest on his claim that 2024 was stolen.
All right, folks, with that, we will wrap up Lichtman Live for this night. It's April Fool's Day. We didn't even do an April Fool's joke. Oh, damn it.
Oh, my gosh.
We totally forgot. Oh, well. Next year.
Yeah.
But good news is the Lichtman Live post show is coming up right after this.
Maybe you can do an April Fool's.
Well, now everybody will know.
No, all right, but they won't know which it is. I tried one on your mom. I said I had deadlifted 330 pounds, but she wasn't buying it.
Yeah, that's not a good one. All right, folks, catch you on the Lichtman Live.